Well, hello. Timing is everything, isn't it? I just want to talk for a minute about a lady called Sonia Davis. I'm sure you all remember her, from August this year, actually. Sonia was in Florida when she had, on holiday, when she had life-saving cancer surgery. It was very serious. And 3 days later, she became a multi-millionairess. She won £61 million on the lottery. So quite a week, I imagine. So what actually happened was that she had this life-saving cancer surgery on the Wednesday. And on the Friday, she phoned home to her family because she'd had the all clear. And she told them, buy me a lottery ticket. In fact, she insisted that they buy her a lottery ticket. They all thought she was mad. But she'd said that she felt like she was the luckiest person alive, and she was definitely on a winning streak. Anyway, her daughter bought, I think it was 6 lucky dips, and against all the odds, they won. And her daughter, Stephanie, would later say to the press, I just can't take it all in. It doesn't seem real, I'm sure. And it doesn't seem real, does it? Because how could Sonia have known that she was going to win the lottery with that ticket? Well, she couldn't have, could she? Well, equally, to me, it feels like something more than just dumb luck. What I thought was really, really interesting about this story was that it was at the moment when she was told she was going to be okay, when she was told that she had a future, that she rang home and decided to tell her family to buy that lottery ticket. It was almost as if, when she was given that all clear, that it gave her the all clear to think about her future again and to feel like she had some power over her future again. And that's what I want to suggest to you today. I want to talk to you about the power of the future. You know, the future is one of the best decision-making tools we've got. I think, unfortunately, over the last sort of 20, 25 years, over the last few digital years, we've been sold on the power of now, and we've forgotten a bit about the future. I think it's probably fair to say that there's never been as much now as there is now. Like, everything feels like it's happening now. Everything has to be immediate. Everything has to be on demand. We want it all now. But life is getting much more fast. I think it was Robert Colville who coined the phrase, the great acceleration. And it was to do with that idea that our culture, probably thanks to technology, is just getting faster and faster. Did you know that we walk 10% faster than we did in the 1990s? Fact. Did you know that they're building a railway that will get you from Melbourne to Sydney within the hour? That's fast. So we're very used to, well, I am, I'm sure you are too, saying, God, there just isn't enough time, is there? But I think there's plenty of time. It's just that we're so busy being busy, using it all up. There is time. Do you also know that there's a term called postalgia? Anybody know postalgia? It's nostalgia for the present. Yeah. No, I'll let that settle. Actually, I think Jason Silver probably described it best when he said, postalgia, it's really, you're in the here and now, but you have an anxiety about its transience, about its finite nature. And I think actually that selfies and selfie culture is really a symptom of postalgia. But anyway, that's another talk. This talk is about redefining the concept of time and using it in a way that'll help us make better decisions more often. I think we're probably also all used to acting on impulse. Acting on impulse in the now has become the new norm, right? We all know the mantras, just do it. move fast, break things. But what if those things can't ever be put back together again? I think it's worth just spending a minute thinking about what happens to us as humans when we try to make decisions under extreme time pressure. So usually one of two things happens. We just act on impulse, or we decide, God, this is too hard. I'm just going to outsource it to somebody else, and they can make the decision. Or actually, increasingly, outsource it to something else, like an algorithm. And only this morning, I was reading a report in the news talking about how much of our decision-making is going to be outsourced to artificial intelligence in the future. I think that what happens to humans is that when they're under that kind of time pressure to make a good decision, they go into what's known as psychic entropy. And it just means that you are unable to think creatively, unable to think imaginatively, and so you do end up just acting automatically. And somehow, because of this nowism, we have convinced ourselves that it's okay to outsource this to machines, because if we're going to act automatically anyway, and that's just the way we're going to behave, well, we might as well give it to machines to do. I mean, hey, that's just more efficient, isn't it? And actually, it might well be more efficient, but is it more effective? I think that is the key question. And there's a lot of work going on in science at the moment, particularly in the area of prospective psychology or anticipatory psychology, that actually suggests that for humans and animals, we're more populous and more effective when we are constantly modelling what might happen in the future. And there's also scientific evidence to suggest that we're a lot less effective when we don't do that. So if you take, for example, something like substance abuse, there's an awful lot of scientific evidence mounting up now that suggests that those who have a propensity to substance abuse also have a propensity to a sort of present time perspective rather than a future time perspective. So it is actually incredibly important. Anybody who wants a bit more information on that or to be totally inspired, I suggest you watch Philip Zimbardo's TED Talk, which is an absolute classic on that. So, just to be really clear though, I'm not really arguing that we should be slowing things down. I don't actually think that's possible anymore, and it might not even be desirable. I'm not arguing for taking more time. What I am arguing for is seeing more time, right? Seeing more time horizons at the same time, all of the time. So I'm going to turn to John Hagel, who's got a very good description of this, much more simple than perhaps I could explain it. John Hagel of Deloitte calls this the zoom out, zoom in philosophy. And he uses as an example some of the most successful, most disruptive, most innovative companies on the planet. And he explains to us that what they tend to do is hold two time frames, two questions in front of them. The first one is, where are we going to be? Where is our consumer going to be? What is our market going to be like in the next 10, 20, 30 years' time? But at the same time that they're considering that, they're also asking themselves the question, what 2 to 3 initiatives could we take over the next 6 to 12 months that will accelerate us towards that future vision? And actually, what he's showing there is that those two time frames, those two time horizons, can be and should be integrated rather than separated. And my simple argument to you today is that we do that in a much more conscious way in everyday life when we're trying to make decisions. That's the way that we should be making those decisions, because there will be better decisions for it. See, the past can give us data, right? But only the future can give us our dreams. All the data in the world could never have predicted that Sonia Davis was ever going to win that lottery with that lottery ticket. But she had a dream, and she felt like a winner, and she bought that ticket, and she won. So I started by saying to you that timing is everything. But perhaps what we've discovered actually is that time frames are everything. And if you want to control your destiny, if you want the future to be the way you want it, then I suggest that you think as much about the future as you do about what's going on in the present now. And perhaps, if you take away one thing, just one thing from this talk, it's that time, in its broadest sense, compels us not just to rely on big data for our big decisions, but to rely on our big dreams too. Thank you.